Hello, everyone. This is Kyla from Hidden Gems Literary Emporium, your family-owned nonprofit community bookstore. And today we have a very special guest from Minneapolis?
Yes.
Yes, Minneapolis, Miss Celeste Newhome, who is the author of this book, Time Sands Memoirs, Healing of My Fractured Soul. And this book is currently on display and available here at Hidden Gems. I hope you guys all come out and get it, or give us a call. We'd be happy to ship it to your home. Miss Celeste, I want to thank you for your time today, first and foremost.
Thank you for having me on.
No problem at all. Let us begin by you introducing yourself, telling us a little bit about you, and how, why, who, what, where, when, how, wow. You wrote this book.
Oh my. Well, again, I'm Celeste Newhome, and how I came to write this book is that one day I was walking through my kitchen, and I had thought about writing a book about my life many years before this. Every time I started writing the book, it became too overwhelming, too painful. So I would stop and just thought, nope, I can't write a book. So I'm walking through my dining room, and all of a sudden I'm hearing this, I don't know really if it was a voice or kind of an intuition, but I'm telling you that they're my spirit guides that were talking to me, and they said, sit down and start typing on your computer. And I thought, okay, because I'm fairly good friends with my spirit guides now and do what they asked me to do. So I sat down. 27 hours later, with about 8 hours of sleep in between times, I had written the meat of the book. And then they told me, now you finish around this. And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to go. I don't know what to do. So I did a lot of meditation, and finally got a foothold on, a few places to go. It was very, what's the word I want to use? Again, I'm going to use the word overwhelming just because I can't think of a word that's better right now. But it was very overwhelming for me to have to go back and start in the beginning. And that's exactly what I had to do. About myself a little bit is that I have a master's degree in social work, which led me to a career of psychotherapy. I'm a licensed alcohol and drug counselor, as well as a licensed independent clinical social worker. I'm also, I have prophetic gifts. Let's see, clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaugustance, and clairaudience. And I do a lot of work delving in the spirit world through a meditation and journaling, things like that. I take a lot of classes to come to know who I am. And so I've spent a lot of years doing that. And I would say when I talk about a lot of years, let's go back to probably about 1968, when I first started realizing that there was things that I had to find out about. When I was 11 years old, the voice of God spoke to me, and I was sitting in my bedroom one night, and I heard this voice, and it said Vicky, and I looked around, and there was nobody there, and I thought it was my parents because they were in the next bedroom, and it wasn't them. They were asleep. And so I continued doing my schoolwork in my bedroom, and again I heard Vicky, and I thought, what is that? And so I look around, and I still don't see anyone. And then I realize that it isn't someone that's talking to me. And what I heard God say to me was, work with others. And that's exactly what I thought the message was that I needed to hear for my life. So whenever people say to me, When did you decide to do what you were doing? How old were you when you decided to do this kind of work? I said, I've known my whole life what my path was. The way I got there was kind of interesting, but I had that path. So there was a few years there, in high school that it was kind of cumbersome with all the moving around I did and things, but I finally found a direction and I kept going on that path from there. In the book, it tells a lot about all of the challenge that I had, and there were so many, many challenges. So that's a little bit about me. I am a mother, and I gave birth to 3 children. 2 of them I had to give up for adoption when I was a teenager. And I kind of expand on that too a little bit in the book about as a practicing psychotherapist, I've worked with a lot of adolescent girls, and a lot of them have had, same kind of challenges I did. And I grew up in a home where there was a lot of abuse, a lot of trauma. I mean, it was day after day after day after day. And as I listened to these girls talk to me, I thought, that's the whole key to all of it. They're looking for love, they're looking for acceptance, they're looking for someone to care about them. And I knew that that was the key to what happened to me in my childhood or my teenage years. And so I really focused in on working with these girls for a number of years, and I just loved them so much. And everything that I have done with adolescents has been just wonderful. I mean, people, they don't realize how important it is just to listen. And if you listen, they have so much to say. And even if it's not through their words, they have so much to say with their body language. And I don't know, my whole career has been so rewarding to me. So anyway, hearing the voice of God, moving forward, starting to get interested in different religions and things, that was a huge part of my growth. I studied Eastern religions. I studied under Sakaru Maharaji. I did Kundalini yoga. I taught Hatha yoga for a long time. It seemed like everything that came to me as a teaching mode, I did, because I was hungering to be better than what I was. I had heard so much in my childhood that you're a terrible child, you're never going to amount to anything, you'll never get anything, nothing will ever work out for you. And that's kind of the whole path that led to my giving my children up for adoption, because who would want you? If you had a baby, who would want you? And being 15 years old, is it true? Is what your parents are telling you true? I mean, what's your frame of reference? That's what it was. And so these kind of things traveled with the girls that I worked with, lots of teenage pregnancies, lots of drug abuse, lots of alcohol abuse, and lots of boys. And I found that in the adult women that I worked with, because I worked with such sexual assault and abused women. And there's just that common theme that happens with women. And I'm sure that men run into the same kinds of things too. And I hear more and more about it every day. Men are much more quieter about what's gone on though. But if they begin to trust you, they open up and they tell you things. And in the book, I kind of wrote about a man that was in his 80s who sat in my office one day and he cried. And he said, when I was a little boy at 5 years old, I heard this kind of vibration on the ground, kind of a rumbling. and he was outside playing with his 3-year-old sister. And he said, all of a sudden I looked and I saw all these horses coming towards us. His father and a hired man of theirs was driving these horses right through their, they had a driveway there, but they were driving these horses right down that driveway, and that's where the kids were playing. And he said, I grabbed my little sister and I ran up to the house and pushed her up against the house so that she wouldn't get hurt. And after they were all gone, then her parents walked up to him and said to the sister, are you okay? Are you okay? We're so sorry that happened. And he said, not once did they ever ask me that I was okay. And even talking about it now, I feel it on my heart because it makes me so sad that people do not acknowledge others for the strengths that they have, for their compassions. And so that's what I've run across in my career. But experience all that myself, it's like, what do we need? What do we need? And I kept working on myself. Many therapists I'd seen, trying to help me to get past all this trauma. And one day, actually the last therapist that I saw, and this has been quite a few years ago now, but she looked at me after we had what is called an EMDR session, and it's kind of reliving, or you're not reliving it, but it's like watching a movie in your mind of what's gone on, and you're kind of just the passive participant. And she said, you poor little pumpkin, no one ever really loved you, did they? And I cried and I cried, and I thought, that's it. I mean, it was like a puzzle piece to me. So every kind of work that I've done in my life, I found another piece to my puzzle. And working in adoption, I worked as a director of an adoption agency. And I did parenting classes for the potential parents, and trying to teach them about the children that they're, thinking about adopting. And I'm telling them 90% of our children have been abused. And I said, this is a fact. This is what's going on out there. And I said, that's why we pull them out of these houses and try to find new homes for them. And I talk about, they may be fire starters. They may be, they may never sleep in their own beds because they're too afraid, and they're hiding under the beds. And, constantly trying to get messages out to other people on how to make changes, how to accept other people, how to do all of these things. So in my book, what I've done is I kind of it's kind of in chronological order. And I've gone through and started at the very beginning with the trauma. My family, not my grandmother or my brother, but the rest of my family were alcoholic and angry, mean alcoholic. My mother was a narcissist, and I was raised primarily by my grandparents, which was a godsend to me because I don't think I would have ever learned what love was if I wouldn't have been with them. And the story talks about some of the chilling events that went on when I would be with my mother, and the fear that I had, and how I would sit up in the trees and just I talk about the trees putting their branches around me and holding me to keep me safe, things like that. And it was really hard to make friends because I was never in the same school. I moved me around from school to school, moved me from one state to another state, to one town to another, and how working in adoption, I finally found that attachment was really a hard thing that I had to deal with. As I talked to the parents about it, I talk about the relationship that I had with my mother and my oldest son. And when, I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago, I went and saw a friend of mine that's a medium, and I said, I'd like to connect with my mother and have a few questions answered. And I do put that in the book. And that's um, a lot of people don't understand what mediumship is, but it's the ability to be able to connect with the other side. And that was very difficult for me. I'm not quite sure, you know, it seemed like as time went on, piece by piece, especially in college, um, when I worked on my master's degree, we did a lot of experiential papers. And I learned a lot more about myself at that time. And um, I think probably the one part of the book that I want to kind of put some emphasis on is my years that I spent having pretty severe illnesses, and which stemmed of over about a 10-year span. And I term it in the book as being a dark ball of energy. And literally everywhere that I felt this ball on my body, there was a disease that cropped up. And the things that I went through, I explain in the book on um, what I did to try to heal myself, because I was very convinced that I could heal myself. If I was able to get sick by having messages put into my mind about you're not good enough, you're not this or that, how do I change these things? And so I started studying neuroplasticity and how you can develop new neural pathways to the brain. And I started teaching that to my treatment groups when I was doing chemical dependency. And how amazed I was as a few years ago, a friend of mine had a stroke, and I talk about him in the book too, and how they were able to use neuroplasticity to help him to get his life back. Okay, what?
I need to say something about that. Something.
Okay.
Well, as you're talking, I'm writing notes. Just so you know, if you see me glancing off, those are notes. Let me give this book to my friend really quick who just came in. Okay. I must say something about what you just said, because you're talking about how you yourself, we all, can create neural pathways in the brain that can heal our body. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
To
We
change
talk
our
about
thoughts, and if you change your thoughts, I truly believe that the healing is possible. I've read it over and over again, and I've experienced it in my own body, my own life.
same, and we talk about it all the time. There's an author from Australia whose book was here, and we just got more copies. It's called True Power of You, and he talks about that exact same thing. We did a book signing event for an author. Her name is Dr. Tracy Shores. She's a neuroscientist, and her book is called Everyday Trauma. And in her book, it talks about how you, as a person, just with how you think, the way you think, and the words that you speak, can not only change, this is the most, change your biological makeup. So if you are sick, you need to say and think, you know what, I'm going to get better. Actually, I am getting better. I am healed. I will be healed. Watch how quickly the sickness will flee. My husband and I are doing a TED talk at Rutgers, and it's called The Power of the Tongue. That's why I started freaking out when you started saying that. We're doing a topic called our topic is called The Power of the Tongue, talking about this very thing. It's so real. People have more power than they think that they do. And just like you just said, we've read hundreds of times. We have thousands of testimonies in our own life to where we've seen it to be true. So so yeah, that's one of the many things that you said that I wrote down in my notes. But I also want to talk about here. I asked this question to a lot of different authors too, who have a book on a similar type of thing. And the funny thing is, the authors that have all gone through either abuse in their youth or throughout their life, or near-death experiences, they are all as bright and vibrant as you are right now. So I always ask them, because I know that people who are going to be watching these videos might be wondering this: how are you such a vibrant and bright and beautiful individual, even though you have had years and years and years of heartache and pain and trouble?
The thing I know about myself is that I don't look at things as being static. I mean, there's always a way out, I guess. I've looked at myself as being very resilient, but I don't know. I have the happy gene. I don't know how to explain it, but it was always like, you don't have to stay here. You do not have to be here. It doesn't matter what they say. You don't have to stay in this place. But the thing is, and again, I do write about this in the book. It's called Vignettes, and I talk about some of the people in my life that have walked with me throughout my life, and they're always different people. Some of the remain the same, but they, whether it's a kind word they say, or if they're just in my life for they say a reason, a season, or a lifetime, however long they're there, they add to me. And there was a woman that was a broadcaster on a local news program here in this state, and I went to see her one day. She's kind of a motivational speaker, and she said, and this is like 20 some years ago that I went to see her. And she said, look at the people that you have on your team. Are they adding to your growth, or are they taking away from it? And she said, even your best friend, is she adding to your growth, or is she always bringing you down all the time? If she is, it's time to find a new best friend. And I took a look, in my mind at the people that I had on my team, and I thought, you're going in the right direction. You're definitely on your way, because I mean, I understood what she was saying. And so it's always been really important for me to look at the people that I have on my team, because at one time in my life, and in the book, I talk about being a recovering alcoholic and drug addict, and things weren't so good at that time, but I was learning during that time. And that's the important thing. Are you learning anything from what you're going through or not? And maybe I wasn't learning it right away in the beginning, but I started learning. And so I have a few years in there that I don't think that my spiritual gifts were very much in tune. But after I had cleaned up, and I have just about 36 years in recovery now, but after I cleaned up, it was like, wow, Spirit just started talking to me all the time and guiding me on different paths to take. And I'd say, this is something I really want to do in my life. Can you help me? And there it was, it would show up. And sometimes it was so fast that I couldn't believe it. And so the people along my pathway were always vibrant people, and they were just absolutely wonderful. And the vocational rehabilitation counselor that I worked with, I had a motorcycle accident. Now, these things I do talk about in the book, but I was in a wheelchair for about 4 years, and he kept telling me, we really want to help you. And I kept thinking, I don't know what you can do for me. And he said, I want you to take all of those minuses in your life and turn them into pluses. And I never have forgotten that. And all the clients that I've worked with, I've always given them that same message. And I've always given them the same message about looking at your team, look at the people that you have around you. So it's so important to have the people in your life that are going to build you up. And you do the same for them, because you could be the one that they're getting rid of because you're not, helping out with their growth. So, it's kind of a two-way street. But that's kind of how it's been for me. I'm a resilient. I always wanted to learn. I'm a sponge for learning. Um, and if somebody tells me to do something, even though I might grumble or grunt and groan about it while they're saying it, after I leave that person, I go, there's a reason that they told me that. And so I take a look at it and I go, yeah, maybe they're right. When my friend said, I think you need to go back into therapy, I said, I'm not going back into therapy. And she said, okay. I went home and I said, I think you better go back into therapy. So, it's like the lights are going on all the time, but I truly, it's my connection that I've had with spirit that has really helped me along my way. And with the prophetic gifts that I have, I'm constantly getting messages and things like that. And my goal is to help people recover from whatever they've gone on with. And you talked about near-death experiences. That's the next book that I'm coming out with, because I did have a near-death experience where they call it the Lazarus Effect, because I did die and was brought back again. And during that time, and I only allude to it in the book just a tiny bit, but during that time, when I saw the other side, I would say that's really, really when everything changed tremendously. And that was, I think, in 1992. And from then, it's just been up, 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 up. Um, I found a spiritual teacher that could teach me about my gifts and things. And so this is what I've tried to, carry out onto the world. I write music. I wrote a song called The Freedom Fighter, The Lover, that was very much inspired by the area that I live in through the riots in 2020. And I have this in my book, and social injustice and things like this. And um, I believe that my purpose being here is to help others to find their way, to see more than just with these two eyes, but to see with our spiritual eye, so we can, be helping others. It's been very busy in the last few years with everything that's gone on in our world, on our planet. And I don't know. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
It definitely did. And yes, I feel as though we can chit chat about these things for hours. And I'm very much so looking forward to your next book. And I want to really thank you for not just your time today, but the time and love that you spent to put this book together for us all to read and learn from. And, it takes a certain level of courage and care for other people to put your life on Front Street, as they say, and to just put it out there and say, look, this is who I am, this is what I've been through. It's not all glitz and glamoury, but it helped me become the person that I am today. And I hope that my story encourages you to get through whatever you're going through in your life, and to come out shining and glittery and vibrant and smiling.
And you're absolutely right. It does it. Putting a story like this out there When I first wrote it, my editor kept saying, you have to more dialogue, expand the scenes. And it made me physically sick in the beginning, and I had to stop for a little while. And then I just asked for protection, from my archangels, to put me in a protective bubble, so to speak, so I wasn't reliving everything that I was writing about, and they did. And I really, truly, if you look at the book, or when you read the book, it's kind of a layered book. So if you read only the quotes that I write in the beginning of each chapter, or where there's a page break, if you read only that, that will tell you one story. The poetry that I have woven throughout the book, if you read only that, that will tell you another story. And and then of course, if you just read the narrative, there's the other story. But all of it, it's meant to be like, some people look at it as being a tragedy. I think of it as being a love story. A love story for me that, yes, this is what it was like. This is what I went through. But I changed my stars, There is another way to come out. And when I sit back now and I think about my life, I think, you have done some things that most people don't even think about doing. You have been given opportunities that, where did they come from? I don't know where they come from. I have, been to other countries. I've had so much just amazement in learning about other cultures, and it's so incredible. And then to actually sit down and write a book where it's like unzipping my suit that I'm in and stepping out and saying, here I am. So it's been incredible. It's very nice to have had you interview me today. I wrote down a whole bunch of things, and I don't even know if I touched on what I wrote down.
Well, we're very much so a let it go and let it flow family. And so we prepare for the interviews, of course, but we rarely have questions, because the best conversations happen when they just kind of happen, when the author says something and then it's like, oh my goodness, what? And then you're just kind of chit-chatting. And so you were amazing. I think you said everything that people needed to hear. Let's put it like that. One more question.
Okay.
If
Yes.
people want to ask you a question or maybe connect with you, stay in touch, what are some of the best ways for people to connect with you online?
Oh boy. Geez, I have a website. um, and it's let's see. I think it's time-sand-memoirs.com, I believe.
Well, you could double check and let me know, and then
Okay.
we'll put it somewhere in this video so people can you get to it right now?
I might be able to. I
Okay,
think I
go ahead.
have it on my phone. We'll go for a little walk over here.
Okay.
Get the phone.
Take your time.
It's always interesting how much you actually have in your storehouse up here, and
Right.
never get done. Okay. Let's see if I can do this quickly. Okay.
Take your time. We're not rushing you.
Let's see. Okay. Here it is.
All right.
Okay. www.time-sandmemoirs.com.
So you did have it right.
I can't believe it.
You said it right. Okay. www.time-sand, one sand or many sands?
One sand.
Okay.
Sand.
Time-sand-memoirs.com.
Yes.
And that's the best way to get in touch with me, Miss Celeste Newhome. And once again, we humbly thank you for your time today. Thank you for writing this book, Time, Sand, Memoirs, Healing of My Fractured Soul. And I want to encourage everyone who is watching or will be watching this video to come by Hidden Gems Literary Emporium to get your copy. Or you can give us a call, 609-361-4241. We would be happy to ship it to your home. And Miss Newhome would be happy to hear your thoughts about her book, right?
Absolutely, yes. I would very much welcome that.
All right, now.
Book of healing.
Again, and I hope to talk to you again. Well, I have a good feeling that we'll be talking again.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. And you keep smiling.
Okay.
You have a beautiful smile. And you're just so bright, you're vibrant, and you're just, it's interesting. Okay, you keep smiling. Let me go because we are not going to be chit-chatting for a whole hour. Okay. See you later.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
Bye.